Sapphire and Steel community. Today is the day I will be showcasing my Set 5 Shimmering Skies Sapphire and Steel deck list. This deck still feels super solid. I have been testing the past couple days, and when I got my hands on these cards, shout out my friend Mark for making that happen. I got to testing right away because playing simulators feels pretty bad. This deck is super strong, able to adapt to pretty much any situation, and I love all the new cards that were added for Set 5. Let me know what you guys think, and do enjoy. For our one drop characters, we only play one, and that's going to be 3 Captain Hook. I decided to add Captain Hook at the start of this meta just because in my testing I have noticed a lot of fast paced decks or aggro decks, and Hook is very strong at fighting or contesting a board early on. And then that's going to follow up with 4 Smee. Smee stays to be the best 2 drop in the game. Hook and Smee pair very well with each other. And again, anything for early board control, these 2 cards will definitely fight the board for that. My favorite card in the deck, in addition to set 5 that Sapphire Steel got, is going to be Tipo, and we do play him at 4. The reason why I prefer him over One Jump and Mickey is this main fact is he is inkable, and being an inkable alone just surpasses any reason to play any other card. The downside effect of him negging a card in your hand, I don't really care for it just because worst case scenario, since you're playing him on 2 and the following turn you'll be at 4 ink, you can play a Hiram if it's that bad to where you need cards in your hand. But usually you get there either way just because you play a whole new world as well. So negging a card in your hand is not bad, especially if you have a bunch of uninkables. He's able to clean your hand. Then we're going to have 3 Pete's. Pete, at first, I tried him at 4 just because your opponent not being able to play actions is super strong. But 3, I think, is the best spot, sweet spot, just because you don't want to see him early too much. You just need to see him at the right time. And I think 3, you'll see him in any situation where you'll find him in, just because early on you'll probably ink one. This card is super cracked against Amber Steel Songs, the mirror match, and pretty much anything that threatens your board as far as actions goes. And against red purple, you can go wide. You can get be prepared. This card allows the deck to really survive turns as far as going wide. For Hiram, not really much detail. We need to go into that. Core staple of the deck, still your best draw power. For Cogsworth, Cogsworth stays in the deck, super strong against any steel deck, and honestly, probably also one of the best 5 drops Sapphire Steel has. 1 Cusco. Cusco, at first I tested at 3 and then slowly dropped into 2, and then here we are now at 1. I think as far as removal for location goes, there are other better methods for that, just because wasting 6 ink to do that feels pretty bad. 2 Ariel. Ariel is super strong this meta. Last meta I felt like she wasn't as strong to include her in the Sapphire Steel list, or at least mine. But in this current state of the meta right now, she has been super strong. Closes out games pretty fast, and a really fast setup just to threaten lethal on board as well. And as always, Ward is just a super strong stat, or ability, I should say. For Tinkerbell, Tinkerbell stays at a 4 of. Not going to remove her from the deck. She is super strong and combos really well with a lot of other cards in our deck. So these next 4 cards in the deck are going to be our AntiP Removal. Just in case your opponent plays Pete and you cannot play any action cards to remove lethal on board, I believe these cards are mandatory and necessary to play in this deck. I could be wrong, but so far in my testing, I personally have loved it. We're going to start off with 2 Hades. And personally, another favorite card of this set that we got as a Sapphire Steel deck, 2 Arthurs. So Hades gets to remove pretty much anything on the board. Tamatoas, anything in the mirror match. Again, pretty much anything that's lethal and your opponent plays Pete on you. I don't want to be put in that spot where I can't answer the board. And these cards help you solve that problem. Arthur, super strong card, pairs very well with Tinkerbell, allowing something on your board to get +2 attack and 2 resist. You can swing over pretty much anything with Ward. This card's a mandatory add-in just for the mirror match alone to get rid of your opponent's cocked wards. or their Ariels as well. This card is very important in their mirror match, just so you can get rid of Cogsworth and Ariel if you're playing against the mirror match. Again, killing anything with Ward is very strong, and if you don't see the Hades, you see Arthur just in case your opponent plays Pete, still super strong. Again, pairs really well with Tinkerbell. She's able to swing over something with 6 attack and still apply that 2 damage. Hades, solid card, gets to remove anything on board. I do love these cards. Definitely need more testing with them to see if I need to cut anything, but so far the 2 and 2 has worked pretty well. 2, Fire the Cannons. Fire the Cannons, the best one drop to answer any removal going on the draw against your opponent. So you get to stop any Amber Steel shenanigans, shift lines, Cinderella plays, and pretty much just anything you don't want to have to not be able to answer just in case you don't see Hook. So Fire the Cannons, super strong card. I don't think you would want to go more than 2. I absolutely love this card. Ever since in my testing, I started off at 1, went to 2, and then now I'm at 4. That's going to be Visions of the Future. So Vision of the Future, for me, acts as a better card than Beast, Sad Beast, or Gaston, because this deck really needs that extra draw power, right? But this card, you don't need to draw. You don't need to waste one turn only seeing 1 card to 3 cards. You get to see 5 cards, and it only costs 2 ink. So there were many situations in my testing where I could find the cards I needed exactly in that situation and different situations. So if I needed to find a Fire the Cannons, or I needed to find a Hades, Arthur, a Hiram, a Pete, this card is super strong, and I think 4 is just the perfect amount. You could cut to 3 just in case it gets cloggy, but I love this card being able to find a new world just in case you activate one and you get a bad hand. This card lets you find that piece that you need right away, and again, pretty much anything that you need for different situations. That's the reason why I'm not playing Gaston or Sad Beast, because this card acts as a better filler for that, and you can just dig for what you need. This card also, I feel like, helps not being able to play New World if you wanted to run a list without it. It just makes your deck more consistent. And then for location removal, we're still on 2 Rise of Titans. I think Rise of Titans stays probably the best answer to locations just because of the cost. And we still have that item removal as well. This card in Cusco, you can honestly play either or. I feel like at that point it's just a personal preference. But with me, personal preference is cheaper cost to play it, and I can do more things in the same turn. Okay. Gonna be playing 2, and then along came Zeus. Super strong for a turn 3 play if you curve into Tipo and you get to play a Hiram out, or not even Hiram, just alone being able to remove something on the board. This card is super strong, pairs very well with Tipo, and again, for an early, fast aggro meta, this card can just pretty much answer any threat that's on board. 3, grab your swords. This card doesn't go away yet. Not really much else to say about this card. The main card in the deck, that's going to be Whole New World. And yes, I did cut this card to 3. In my testing against various of decks, I found there were a little bit more situations where I didn't have to Whole New World or I didn't want to. And with the addition of Vision of the Future, I felt like it was reasonable and okay to cut this card. Especially with the uninkable count, it felt like a solid choice. You could play 4 if you wanted to. I think 3 is more than fine. Go ahead and test that ratio out. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the main reason why I'm at 3, and I've been liking it a lot so far. And then of course, just to end off the deck, you have the Popsicle Package with your 4 Fishbones. Now, there is an argument to be made where you can play the new Donald Duck that lets you. So far, this is what I've been testing personally, and it feels super consistent and strong. So many different lines of play with the addition of Tipo being able to ramp early. cutting that uninkable space of Mickey Mouse Detective or One Jump Ahead allows us to play other cards. Pete's again stops your opponent from playing actions against red purple, the mirror match, amber steel. Super solid choice. Even if red blue decks cut be prepared, it's pretty much the same thing. Pete is making them do that. So still an awesome benefit. Captain Hook and Smee super strong for early game, early board pressure. I like Captain Hook late game obviously feels bad, but seeing him early and then especially at 3 is super solid. And again, if you see him with Smee, you're gonna get that lore as well. Arthur and Hades, these cards I personally have really loved them in testing. The ratios, there's an argument to be made where you can go 1-1 or maybe 2-1. We just have to see with more time in testing. And then the main thing that you're gonna notice is no Lucky Dime, no Tamatoa. I don't believe you need those cards right now. I think Ariel and Pete alone carry the deck to where you can close out games fast, and Visions of the Future lets you dig for those cards when you need them, when you want to close out the game. I do have different lists that do have Tamatoa and Lucky Dime that until this fast meta goes away, when there's more testing, more people playing and adapting to the meta, if the fast paced meta goes away, I can see Lucky Dime returning to the deck as far as Tamatoa as well. But I mean, we'll see. It's too early to tell, but so far this list feels super